on LinkedIn for some reason. Cool. All right. Let's give it a sec to let the live get warmed up. I was trying to decide if I wanted to do Instagram. Hey, hey. Say hello as you pop in. Pretty please. I really wish that they would add Instagram to this software, but it is only I got what? Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. All right, we got a few folks in here. Be sure to hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, what's up, Janine? What's up, Melissa? So I'll get to questions, comments here at the end. So this is a continuation of the conversation that we were having on the last live. We're talking about the history of money. I think that it's one of those things that it's only valuable if you can use the information. So I want to talk about how you can actually use this information, but also want to just kind of talk about the mindset of why this is important. I think a lot of people complain about the economy, the system, and I think it's important to know that number one, it's just it really is a game. Like it's just the game of money. I consider it a game, and I think that's the best way to look at it. And just like any game with its rules, it's a perfect game. I think if you go in with that perspective, you understand that it's about understanding how to play the game. I remember, and that's so appropriate. My sister is on tonight. So one of my favorite games was Monopoly when we were young, which to most of y'all know, that's probably not a huge surprise. But I love the game Monopoly. And when I got to college, I was playing with this one guy. And I would usually just slaughter everybody. And so there's this one guy that's like just amazing at Monopoly. And so one day he tells me, it's like, dude, there's just a couple of tricks. And now you can find those tricks online. But back then it was like earth shattering. It's like, no, these are the only properties you're supposed to buy. You just stay away from this one. You never buy this one. It's just all of these different rules. It's only like 4 or 5 rules. And basically you're going to kill everybody else who doesn't know those rules every single time. That is the real life game of money. If you know how to play the rules, if you know how to play the game, you may not even need or want to be the Michael Jordan of the game, but you're going to do really, really well every time. I think one of the things that people get wrong is that, it's about hard work. I know a lot of wealthy people and 2 things are very clear. They're not the smartest and they don't work the hardest. I was talking about my buddy. It's like this is on vacation every other week. And that's if you know the rules and you're playing the game by those rules, then you're going to win. If you know the tricks, then you're going to win even more easily. And the unfortunate thing is you have a lot of people that are complaining. So even like other friends that would complain about my buddy that will win all the time. It's like, oh, what is this guy doing? Like, he always wins. They're complaining about that instead of even just asking like, yo, how are you winning? Like I was the only guy that ever asked, like, dude, how, like, I'm good at this. Like, how are you always winning? And he told me, he was like, oh, there's these 5 rules that you got to make sure you play with every time. But it's that exact example is what happens in real life, that people are looking at the wealthy and they either complain, they feel like it's unfair, all the odds are stacked against me, and they're kind of playing this game horribly and complaining about it. And then you have the protesters on Wall Street against Wall Street and da da da. And it was really interesting. There was this one guy who was a Wall Streeter, multimillionaire. He went out to just talk to the people. And it was one of those interesting thing where everybody's like, "No, you're the enemy. It's your fault. It's y'all's fault. All of us are poor." Da da da. And nobody asked him like, "Yo, how'd you get rich?" Like, do you mind helping me? Nobody asked that. It was just a bunch of complaining and all of the odds are against me. And so all of that. And, the 2 things I will say is that, yes, there are going to be different people that start at a different point of game. But the one thing that I can guarantee you is, I've been to close to 40 countries. If you can't, and I've loved history and all that. If you can't make it, if you happen to be on this call and you're American and you have any level of sound mind and you have a body that works, and you're not getting wealthy, then it's just you have. I mean, this is the only chance in the history of mankind that you've had this easy of a time getting wealthy. Like even kings literally 200, 300, 400 years ago had it tougher than us today, just an average citizen. Like they had to constantly watch their back. It was very difficult. It was very stressful. Like the wealthiest people, it was very, very tough. Like, people could just break in, just take your stuff. Like it was just, we live in such amazing times. And if you happen to be American, then you're just in the most amazing of the amazing times. And so people don't like to hear that because we live in a time where everybody wants to be really coddled. But the truth is, if you're not figuring out how to get wealthy right now, then you were never going to make it, because there's been no time up until now where it's been as easy. This is the easiest time in history. And it's just getting easier by the second, it seems like, with everything that's coming out, AI and all this other stuff. So if you're not making it happen right now, then just rest assured there was no point before this that it was going to ever be as good, no matter, if you're black, white. There's just no point in history where it was going to be as easy as it is right now. Now, on the other side of that, there's a total recognition that different people start at different points, just like in any game, right? So, if you I think one part that you have to, and I was just having this conversation with a friend. I think you've got to accept the fact that if you're working a job, if you're trying to start a business, if you're doing this, for the average person, they're spending more than 60% of their awake life working to make money, or thinking about money, or stressing about money, or planning money, or budgeting money, just investing money. Everything they're doing, for money is more than 60% of their life. So it means that 60% of your life is spent playing this game. And so if you are gonna play this game with 60% of your life, you really should do 2 things. Either you're gonna say, which I have I actually have some respect for, like when I was in college, I did this paper, and I was in New York and went into the city, and it was a class called Street Life, where we literally just studied the street life of like all the different characters. Prostitution was part of it, homeless people, just like street life in modern America. So part of it was I interviewed some homeless people, and it was interesting to talk to some of them that made a conscious decision where they were just like, you know what, my wife left me, had this issue. And I was just like, don't want to live in regular society. I don't want to work a job. I don't want to play this game. And I had somebody who, had a really great job in engineering and just had a bunch of things happen, had a very normal conversation. And, maybe there was some mental illness there, but in our conversation, it was just 100% just very coherent and like, no, here's all the reasons why. This is why this makes sense for me. I enjoy this life. I enjoy it. I wake up every morning. I can go where I want. Just that kind of thing. And he opted out of the game. But for those of you that aren't opting out of the game, and you're gonna play the long game, you're spending over 60% of your life thinking about money, working for money, saving money, budgeting money, using money to pay bills. You should want to get really good at whatever you're going to do. With 60% of your life, you should aim to get amazing at it. It's kind of like basketball. If you're going to spend 60% of your life playing basketball and suck at it, not know the rules, be terrible at it, I'd just be like, dude, like, why are you doing this? And complain about it. It's like, oh, this game just sucks. It's unfair. I don't get it. Like, these other people are so good at it, and why are they so good? And I suck, and they're getting all the attention. And it's like, this is literally what people are doing with money. They're spending all this time in it and not spending any time getting good at it. It's like, if you're going to work for this thing, even what we talked about that we'll go into more detail on this end, even if it's just the 0.0001% of the very first step of understanding, what is this thing? If I'm playing the money, if I'm doing all this thing for money, like, where does it actually come from? How does that part even really work? Like, oh, I thought that the government made money or creates money or prints money. It's like, no, it's a totally separate private company called that they named purposefully to make people feel like it was part of the government, named the Federal Reserve. That's just a private company. You can go and get a D&B score for the Federal Reserve. And then there are these almost franchise units where you can look at the Federal Reserve of Chicago's D&B score because it is just a regular private company. So how does that work? Why does that work? How do I get my piece of it is another part. But kind of taking that basketball analogy, when it's not to say that there aren't going to be people that are just have advantages. Somebody who's just going to be born with amazing magical talent like Michael Jordan. And even in his exact gene pool, he had his brother. He said, like, my brother was better than me, all my life. He just was shorter and wasn't at a height to be able to compete as they got into college. And so you're going to have those folks. You're going to have people that are just better. But at the end of the day, the game itself is perfect. And, even you take like a Kobe Bryant, who had a dad who was a professional basketball player and taught Kobe from 2 years old. And so, if you're taking somebody even like me, it's like, my dad didn't know a lot about money, tried and was an amazing father, and I so appreciate him. But, there are other friends that I have, their dad, when they were 2 years old, just like starting very, very early, like, hey, this thing is important. This game of money is important. For, my dad, which was a very valuable, important thing as well. It's like, it was all kind of religion. It's like, here's this other separate thing that I'm glad that I received, but I didn't get the money game early. And so you can have somebody who is playing a Kobe Bryant. And this is a real thing where it's like, all right, somebody's up against Kobe Bryant. And, Kobe comes in, he's been playing this game since he was 2 years old. His dad training him, just building this machine for the NBA. Diet, exercise, teaching them everything. And then you have this other guy, and it's like Kobe comes up and, does some incredible move and ends up, crossing him over, comes and ducks on him and posterizes him, just like, balls in the face, what they say. So, the other guy, the crowd cheers for Kobe, and he could be saying like, "Hey, like, no, it's not fair. Like, Kobe had his dad. He was training him. Like, I don't have a dad at all. I didn't even start playing until I was a teenager. Like, he had this huge advantage. Like, this just isn't fair." And so that's what a lot of people are doing when it comes to this money game. But the crowd doesn't care. Like, the people paying the money don't care. And so it's like, okay, either that guy has to go in and it's like, yo, I got to do double what Kobe doing. Because we also know that Kobe was falling up. He also had the training instilled at a very young age. So he's going to be training because that was instilled. So now this guy has to make up for that if he wants to play the game at that level. That's the only, there's no other way around it, because the complaining isn't going to get you cheers from the crowd. It's not like if he looks up to the crowd like, nah, Kobe got advantages. Nah, this isn't a fair game. It's not like if he goes to the team's owner, says, hey, no, like, I need the same amount as Kobe though, because if you look at the advantages he had compared to my disadvantages, then like we really should be at the same level money wise. All of that doesn't matter. And so it's up to you to get as good as you want to be at this money game. And I think, again, if you're going to spend 60% of your life in the game, don't complain about the game. If you're going to complain, guys, says, hey, I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to be on the street, I'm opting out of the game. If you're going to play the game, then get good at it, because, hey, you got one time on earth. Like, don't waste it in a game that you're not going to try to get good at. The other part of this is, when I talk to people that, and again, I think sports is just a really great analogy, that after work, instead of turning on CNBC and understanding the language of money and finance, they're watching, by the way, hit the like button. If you're here, if you're hanging out, this is boring stuff. Only like people that care about this and are getting value. It's not like this is just some light entertainment. So if you're here and you're getting some value, which you're only going to stay if you're getting some value, please hit the like button. So pretty much everybody should hit the like button. But when you get off of work and you go home and you're turning on, the whatever, Steven Jackson, or ESPN for the folks that don't really watch sports, and you understand all of the rules of the sport. Who the players are. How much money they're making, who's coming up for a contract, who has a possibility of being traded. You understand everything that's going on in this world. You understand the language of it. Again, it's really sad to have spent all of that day. So you've got this one day of 24 hours, and you spent, an hour in transit, 30 minutes to work, 30 minutes back. You were away from your family for the other 8 hours as well. You get home, you expended that energy. And now, instead of trying to learn about this thing that you just spent so much of your day trying to get, you're going to go and learn some other game and be an expert and understand the language and all of that. One of the really cool things when I think about the language of finance, I was talking to one of the guys that owns a company I'm an investor in, and we've been in the Patreon as well, talking about just the importance of getting income from every dollar. I think right now, especially if you look at the money that's in your account, it's basically like a bucket, and in inflation, as it goes higher and higher, it's like having a hole in that bucket, and the value of your money is going lower and lower. And so we're more aggressive than ever, seeking income for those idle dollars, and doing that in the stock market by selling puts and selling calls for income. And if you're interested in that strategy, definitely check out the Patreon. But for us, I think part of it is just understanding the language, and then understanding the history. So, and then within each part, there's kind of another language and history within private equity. Within, I learned as I got into an IPO, which has still been a learning experience, and definitely just one that I've appreciated. Insurance is its own thing. All of these different things are just its own language and history. And that kind of the base level is understanding, okay, like let's figure out finance and how money works. So we're talking last time a little bit about the Federal Reserve. And as I mentioned earlier in the call, like most people don't even know that it's a private company that prints our money and lends to our government. It's just a enterprise that got that agreement, which is a pretty incredible feat, to be able to have America as your asset. So for the Federal Reserve and also for China, which is funny when people talk about getting in the war with China or having a fight with China, it's like, man, like we're one of their assets. And the Federal Reserve has America as an asset because it loans. So just to get specific there, because I know sometimes I want to just break down the actual terminology of what I'm saying. So if you loan somebody money, that loan becomes your asset, and you have a lien against your asset with that loan. So you've got to pay me the money, or I can come after stuff that you own if you don't pay it. So when your lender is loaning you money, you are on their balance sheet as an asset. So for the Federal Reserve, America, and a lot of stuff that America, quote unquote, owns is an asset. And we're considered, you literally are an asset of China, because what the lender looks at is if in order for you to pay me, what are all the things that are the assets that are generating income for you? So for me as a private equity investor, I've got a set of assets. All the assets I may have them in random different structures and joint ventures or whatever. And so each of those assets generate income for me. So if somebody's looking to make me a loan, they're going to say, what are your sources of income? And I say, okay, all of these things are your assets. That's what we're going to base this loan on. So we're going to give you this loan based on all of those sources of income. When America goes to China and gets a loan, they're looking at you as one of the sources of income for this enterprise called America. When Federal Reserve gives a loan, they're saying, hey, this is because you're generating income from all of these individuals. When Joe Biden is talking about increasing your taxes, it's basically saying, hey, I'm going to force you as my asset to give me more. All right. So that's one important part to understand. But the other thing is, okay, well, this Federal Reserve thing, like, how did it come about? So you had the not Roosevelts, oh my God, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, and some say the Rothschilds were behind the scenes in kind of this concept of the Federal Reserve. And the Rothschilds have been doing it for years, where they were lending to governments. But one of the important things is that for the history, like the forefathers did not want a Federal Reserve Bank because they knew that basically the government becomes kind of enslaved to this lender that is controlling and printing the money. Like, why, if you're a government, why would you want somebody else to control your money? It doesn't even make sense, to the point that Andrew Jackson there were some people that were trying to go behind his back when he was president and create this federal bank and try to get support from the congressman and blah, blah. He had them executed. So this is a very, very, and if you want to think of like America as the forefathers and some of the initial people that started it, it's an anti-American thing, but an amazing business thing. And quite honestly, hey, if I could convince whoever the president was at that point that approved it, if I convince them and say, hey, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to print the money, and then I'll control the money supply. You don't need to be worried about that. I'll worry about how much money he needs. I'll worry about the economy, and we'll lend the money to you. So we're motivated to make sure the economy is somewhat stable because the individuals need to be able to pay you taxes. They need to earn money and pay you taxes so we can get our money back. And so that gives you a little high level of this very interesting pitch. Now, I don't as this isn't about being conspiracy theories or like any of that. Number one, that's not a conspiracy. It's literally just it's you can yeah the Monster at Jackal Island or there's several books that are out there. I'll throw a link actually in here in the chat. So yeah, so it's not it's definitely history. So you don't have to buy the book. If you just do the meeting at Jekyll Island, then in Google, then you can kind of get a summary of the history. So it's important to just understand, okay, that's how money works, that's where it's coming from, that kind of thing. And I think the other part of this though that is really cool and a lot of fun is the fact that once you know that, number one, they're printing money at an outrageous rate and they're trying to figure out, some people also, I don't want to go into the SVB thing, but there are banks that are failing because I'll give you kind of the high level. It's they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because they need to raise the rates in order to control inflation because they've printed trillions of dollars. So there's trillions of dollars out there. And what's happening if you create a tremendous amount of supply, something there's going to be a tremendous amount of inflation. But they also at the same time while they need to raise those rates, the banks when they raise those rates, it's bringing down the value of the assets on the bank's balance sheet. And so, without getting too boring, I'll leave that portion at that. So they're kind of stuck where it's like, okay, we need to raise this, and it's going to hurt the banks, or we need to, but we at the same time we need to stop inflation. So for us, getting down to the opportunity. What's the opportunity for us as acquisition entrepreneurs that are acquiring businesses? Where should we be buying businesses? And I've mentioned it a few times in passing, but I wanted to give you at a very macro level the why behind where I'm focused and where I'm doing deals. And a big part of it is what we're going to see is, there's only so much you can do to fight this. And because here's the other part. So they're trying to fight inflation, but then they just gave like $500 billion more dollars to Ukraine. They just printed 2 trillion more to try to help out the banks. And so it's this outrageous thing. And so just to give you the why behind, it's if you look at history, it's what's happened to every empire. I think check out the last video that I did where I talk about the luck and the reason that we're even the wealthiest country right now, which is a single scenario that was just tremendous luck, is the only reason that we weren't bankrupt about 60, 70 years ago. So you add all of that together and you look at the history of every country that's had this exact same thing that the forefathers knew. If we have this Federal Reserve Bank, they're gonna want to loan and loan and loan. And so you've really got a people that are very motivated, that control trillions of dollars, that want to make more loans. They make them to other countries as well, but they want to make more loans to America because that increases their assets. And so they're literally motivated to lobby, and they have a lot more money to lobby with than the tobacco or the gun lobbies or any lobby that you can imagine, to make sure that there's one solution for everything. And that one solution for every problem is let's print a few more 100 billion. You know what'll fix this? We need another trillion. And the people that it hurts is us, the assets that get punished because the money that we have becomes worth less and less because they're printing more and more. That's all inflation is. It's a complicated way of saying when they print a trillion, your dollar's worth less. You know, when you go back 100 years, they say that a dollar 100 years ago is worth 30 times less than it was back then. So it would take $30 to buy what was $1 back then. And so we think about 100 years like, oh, well, that was a long time ago. Well, yeah, but it's 30 times. That means at 10 years, it was a lot of times, and another 10, and another 10. And so whenever you hear that on the news, because we get disconnected, and this is the really important thing, is because number one, you should be watching CNBC. You should want to watch CNBC instead of ESPN, because you're in that game. You're playing that game. That's the game you're playing. It'd be like somebody in the NBA is like, yeah, I don't really like knowing what's going on in the NBA. I only want to hear about hockey. It's like, well, no, dude, like you've already spent 9 hours of your day playing the money game to get some money. Let's see what's going on with this money that I just spent 60% of my life and energy and light and God-given gift of time on this planet. Let me see what I'm getting. And every time that you hear that they're printing another trillion, what you should understand is look at your bank account. Oh, that number is the same, but it's worth a lot less. And then they print another $500 billion, and it's worth a lot less because the supply has increased. So what should we do? I think one of the things is getting into the asset business. So when we say that, the last 100 years, that dollar is worth 30 times less, or it takes $30 to buy what that $1 is, it's that you're buying those things. So when you go to the gas station, instead of it being 50 cents, now it's $5. It's not that it's more valuable. I think this is one of the other just kind of simple concepts that a lot of people confuse. And they're like, oh, like everything is just worth more. It is not worth more. This is so important to talk about and understand, just as far as the money game. It's not that the oil is worth $5 and it used to be only worth 50 cents a gallon. It's that your money is worth less. And so bottom line is you want to be in asset businesses. And so for me, one of those places that it becomes really valuable is financial practices and financial advisory firms. And I think a lot of people don't know that even without a license, you can buy those firms. And those firms are literally in, it's called asset management. They're literally in the asset management business. So when the dollar's getting smaller and smaller, assets are getting bigger and bigger, this becomes an opportunity to be able to buy those firms. So we're in this very unique time where those firms are easier than ever to buy. You've got financing companies that want to offer financing on those types of companies, which again, I think those are the two things that I think a lot of people feel like are the hurdles. Number one, people think, oh, well, I'm not a licensed financial advisor, so I can't buy a practice. That's not true. And then the second thing is, oh, you've got to have a lot of money and there's financing available. And then for y'all that have lasted this long on this on this call today, or not call, on this video today, I'll let y'all in on a secret that Fiji, the public company that I'm CEO of, is providing financing on those acquisitions as well. So we've got about $20 million available to help people when you're acquiring those. So part of it will be getting financing from SBA, and then we'll come in and help with some of the financing to help you to acquire those firms. So if that is something that you are interested in, we're going to have some training, because especially if you're getting to the space, there's going to be some training that you need. So I'm doing an event coming up couple of months. We're very specific about who we're inviting because we want to make sure that you're a match. And this is something that is a lot bigger. I had the great fortune of meeting with a guy just 2 weeks ago, and they've been in this game of acquiring firms for a long time, and I didn't know how big they were. But we're sitting down, we're talking. I'm talking to the CEO and the CIO, and I knew they had a wealth management company, and so kind of beating around the bush. And so I'm really glad that I asked. I'm like, so how much do y'all have under? How much assets in that space? As you'll learn, is you go through our process. Uh, Everything's kind of measured on assets under management. So, they've been acquiring these firms. This before I even tell you this. This is very important as a point to what I talk a lot about here, which is we see on Instagram, on Facebook, 3% of what's happening in the world of finance and business and money and the real money game. That's why I really want you to get out of this kind of bubble, because we start to think, oh, like business is me getting famous on Instagram and trying to get a bunch of followers and blah, 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 blah. Or business is me starting a website and talking to people about it and that kind of thing. It's like, no, there's business that people don't want you to know anything about. And so these folks have been acquiring financial advisory firms, doing none of the traditional, like, oh, I'm going to go out just like and advertise and try to get clients. Like, no, I'm going to find a financial advisory firm and try to acquire it. And so, I'm asking them, so like, how much are your assets under management? A little bit of beating around the bush, we've been doing a long time. It's like, yeah, but I'm the type that, I don't mind to to just keep reiterating. I've done due diligence for 20 years. So, if I'm trying to find something out, I'll just keep asking it in different ways. And so finally he tells me we're at $32 billion under management. This is a small company, just think not small, obviously it's huge, but nobody would ever have any idea. No Facebook posts about it, no talking about it on Instagram, not even really talking about it on LinkedIn. Just a tiny company that from the outside looking in Cleveland, Ohio, that no one would ever suspect. And this is the power of this strategy. That's the power of this strategy. I want y'all to level up. I want y'all to get into some big boy games. If we're gonna play, that's my only point. If you're gonna play the money game, let's play it at a big boy level. If you're interested in this, hit me a line at broker@goodmerger.com. We're gonna pick out some folks that we'll bring in and do some training. You'll get to meet some of my team that we're doing these deals with. We'll do a few questions and we'll turn it in. I've had a bit of a day. First, let's get my sister popped in. Melissa said, what's up, Janine? What's up? Janine is a very, very talented young lady in Atlanta, ATL. Hey, before you leave, so I know a couple of people are popping out now. Be sure to like. We've got Twitter. Be sure to like over there. We've got YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And share. I think this is one that's worth sharing. I never ask y'all to share stuff. I think this one is worth sharing because there are just a lot of people that I think it's kind of become a cool thing to be the victim and claim the victim. And my hope is that instead of trying to say like, no, you're not a victim, you're a victor, just shifting the perspective on how people see what's happening in the world and what's going on, and that it's more of a mindset, and you don't want to be that mindset of a victim. And being a victim is something that's being very much popularized. Click said, hi, thanks for popping in. Melvin, what is up? Melvin says, everyone is dealt a deck of cards. Some have it better or worse. You make hay while the sun is shining. That is exactly right, sir. Khalix, maybe Khalix, stay. Thank you so much for coming. He says, or she, thank you for teaching. Thank you so much. Kenny, what is up, homie? Says, what up, Ace? Thank you for popping in. Rich New Yorker, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? If you're gonna be a New Yorker, you might as well be a rich one, baby. Always know which game you're playing. Yes, absolutely. Kenny asks a question. He says, "Hey Ace, where do you keep your liquidity? Big banks. It's spread, and we're pretty heavily into basically investment banks. So you would call it just like stock accounts. We're using liquidity and kind of dry powder with some of the stock strategies that we discuss in the Patreon. So mix between those pretty well. Do you need a certain personal credit score? Yeah, so on the financing. So Janine's asked about the financing that we're providing when we're doing the financial advisory acquisitions. Yeah, so you do need, it's not so much a certain score as it just is your overall, finance. So we just look at the overall picture. So it really just depends, and there's a portion of it where we're working with a financial partner, and so they're going to do a portion, and we do a portion. So a little bit of it depends on their portion is more strict than ours. So if you didn't need their portion, you're going to come with cash for that portion. So I would just say, bottom line, reach out if this is something that you are interested in. Here is the email, broker@good merger. But that is a great question, Janine. Thanks for that. Yes, capital B like Blackstone. And you could go so much deeper when you look at somebody who is at Goldman, which is another amazing example. Like I love to say that Goldman's doing to the bottom line multiple billions of dollars each quarter, and 300,000 followers on Instagram. But you have somebody who leaves Goldman, they go and they're working for the Treasury, and then they go and they're working for BlackRock, which is a partner of Blackstone, and has trillions of dollars in debt that the Treasury was also giving them. It's a very interesting thing. It's a beautiful thing. And, I was taught at a young age, you never hate the player. If you're going to hate, you got to hate the game. But I'm saying, hey, let's play the game. Ain't no reason to hate the game either. Would you buy an accounting firm at 2 or 3x? So we are doing deals in the accounting space. We're selling a bookkeeping firm right now. It's a very much a different thing. So I think, it's very specific. I'm interested in owning asset. Number one, as far as the strategy that we're talking about today, it's not to say that if an amazing deal came across, we may do it. I'm involved with several bookkeeping firms right now that we're looking to exit. So if that's something that you're looking to buy, then we have some of those deals. But I think this is, as far as I'm talking about kind of the trajectory of America and where things are going. I want to be in asset management businesses. I want to be in financial advisory firms. I want to be in financial planning firms. Because it's an arbitrage play. We know that inflation is going to happen. We know that dollars are going to be worth less. And so if you've got, and just to be quite, I won't go into it, but there's some businesses that, let's say you've got a business. So let's talk about the bookkeeping firm that I wouldn't buy. I wouldn't want a bookkeeping firm where they're in a long-term contract. And this is all just to compare the types of businesses that you should be considering. If you're in a long-term contract with a bookkeeping firm, And they say, okay, we're going to pay you this much for the next 4 years, blah blah blah, as our bookkeeping. Well, we know that every month those dollars are worth less. We know that eventually your employees are going to want more. So that business is going to be worth less. And so this is the lens. And I'm glad you brought that up, Kenny, because this is the lens that you want to look at things from. The reason I end up in the very best business to acquire, to be figuring out how can I acquire, is a financial planning business, because that's the opposite. Because as the dollar is less and less and the assets are more and more, you're literally in that business of making more and more. Because of that, you don't have to ask for more. You don't got to go to each client every 6 months, like, every year we got to increase that. Like, none of that needs to happen. And so that's it's not about it being in just finance, which I'm not saying that it would be bad. It just takes looking at the specific deal. I'm just saying there's some businesses as a category you can say, oh, this whole category is good. When you are talking about like some of these other things, it's still just like a deal by deal kind of thing, which that's just everything. SaaS, that's e-commerce, that's anything. It's just like a deal by deal. I'm saying as a category, this is where you want to play for a lot of reasons. And just to go into another reason is, it's about getting into the middle of the finance game. Like, that's what I'm realizing. And this had the great fortune today of speaking to the president of a Black Association of Financial Planners. And one of the things we're talking about, is just the need for more Black people in that space. Huge need. And so there's kind of there's just too many different things. But I think in general, it's, getting into a game where you're getting into the center of finance. It's, what was just mentioned as far as Blackstone. That's kind of what they're doing. And, but not a lot of Black. It should be Whitestone, but I digress. So a lot there. It's too much to cover on this call, but hopefully this is just enough to kind of whet your appetite. I know I did the last one that was kind of a very quick kind of just intro to this. But there's just a lot of levels. And so there's bottom line, there's no comparison to just like, oh, I'm going to buy this, accounting firm to what I'm talking about with this strategy. What up? I hadn't seen you in a while, man. It's been a little while. Cowboy del Norte. ¿Qué tal, homie? Says Ace, the main man. So we appreciate it. Darius, man, good to see you as well. Says more life, more money, more love, more blessings. I certainly appreciate that. Melissa, my sister, said this was a good video. It means a lot coming from you. You know what I mean? When your sister says this was a good one, she knows me. M. Sway, I am doing well. Says, how are you, bro? I'm doing well, man. I am certainly blessed. I kind of feel like what Darius was just saying: more life, more money, more love, more blessings, man. So I'm feeling good. Rod, what is up? Joining you from Barbados. We're not too far away. I'm in the Caribbean right now. It's a little bit of ways, but I love it. Similar weather. Why is private equity such a foreign concept to the Black community? I think it's to a lot of communities, and I think to even a lot of the white community. It just so happens that the small portion of the white community that is familiar is the whole industry. And so there are just very few of us that get that. And I think there's a certain comfort level. If you think about even just home ownership, if no one in your family owned a home, you're a lot less, statistics just show that you're a lot less likely to ever own a home. And a lot of that is because you just don't even know where to. Number one, it's not a part of your reality, so it's just not a part of your norm. You just don't expect yourself to do it. Whereas if everybody in your family has owned a home, then you just take that as a given. The other part is you don't even know what to do. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, like, I think I can go to a bank and I get a mortgage, and you may have heard of an appraisal, you may not. And so it just becomes this overwhelming and unfamiliar thing. And it's kind of like what I'm talking about when it comes to finance and knowing the language of money. That becomes kind of another hurdle to overcome. But you look at something like private equity, where you may have never even heard of it. And so it's just like buying a business. For the average person, the concept of buying a business is like, well, even if they know somebody's bought a home, it's like, okay, I knew my uncle bought a house. I know he went to the bank, got a mortgage, got an appraisal. There's this thing called an inspection. You go to a title company, and so you just understand at least the basics. So you compare that to buying a business, and then before you even get into the complexity of private equity, and it's like, okay, like where do I start? Like I just have no idea. Like, is that possible? Is the first thing. I've never heard of anybody that I know doing that. So is it possible? Then is it possible for me? Like, what is the very first thing? What are the types of so like even just knowing like what kind of loan would I even ask for? So all of those things end up being a very huge hurdle for folks. Networking pays dividends. I like that name. That's awesome. Any topics we should start diving deep into in terms of learning about the real game of money? So there is one. Let's see. There are two. One is literally called the. Is this it? I don't want to give y'all the wrong one. Let me see. Let me see. Yes, this is it. So it's literally called The Money Game. I wanted to be sure this was it. So I put the link in here. Not an affiliate link. just sharing game. And then the other is one that I mentioned on the channel years ago. It has the most spammy name ever, called 950 million in 40 minutes. Because this is just so great as far as I stopped recommending it for a while because we sold all of them because it was out of print. And they're just and what like I sold there just weren't very many, so it's like whatever the 20 that they had we ended up selling. And so this is it lives up to the thing, but it's just a very complicated thing where basically he was able to create out of thin air $950 million in 40 minutes. And so I'll let you read the book to figure out how that works. Those are two books. Ryan Rivers, what's up? Thanks. He said, what's up, Ace? Just watched your interview on ENTP Life. Yes, just saw that came out as I was logging in to do this. So I gotta go over there and get in the comments. And it was really great getting to hang with those guys. What he's up to is amazing. And thanks for coming over. The bull says, hey, Ace, I'm currently looking for mentors, but what would you suggest having a business coach? I think as you gain more knowledge, you'll start to realize who you need your mentor to be. So part of it is just starting now, gaining knowledge. I shared those books, listening to podcasts, being on videos like this. The second part is there's three things when it comes to networking I think are really important. Second part is we have more access than ever before to people. By the way, be sure to like. If y'all want, be sure to like. Going a little longer here, so be sure to like the video. I appreciate it. That's all. I don't, I don't. This is all for free. So subscribe, like is the cost of entry. So the first thing is your own education. That's going to help you get clarity on what you want, but also who you need and where the holes are to fill. Because until you gain a certain level of knowledge, then you don't know where holes are, where those holes are, and who can fill those holes. The second thing is, like I mentioned, we've got more access than ever before to people, and so connecting with people on Twitter, on Instagram. Now, how do you connect? The first thing is you don't go in and ask for anything. And the really cool thing is, it's kind of the I talk about that before. It's like, people get stingy with likes. It's like, dude, get stingy with your money. Don't get stingy with likes. Like, give out likes freely, give out comments freely, give out online praise freely. And so that's one of the most powerful things, is that you can actually give value today freely. So when you have somebody that you think could be a really great mentor, the first thing is just sharing their stuff. It's like, hey, I want to share this with my audience, liking everything, commenting, saying, hey, this is great. Just like that interaction. There was no way, I look at it back to when I was coming up, like there's just no way to interact with somebody who was a millionaire. Like, I had literally, besides like, some of the wealthy guys that would donate to my dad's ministry, and I would really just see them in passing. One, like but today you can, number one, read their thoughts and see what they're saying, and then be able to interact with them. But the first thing is just, I would go for months just letting them see my name. As much as they're posting, I'm liking, sharing, and commenting every post, liking, sharing for months. So they see the name, and you're building that. And then after 3 months, just a very simple question. They already know your name, seen your name for 3 months. So that would be step 2. And then step 3 is networking on your level with the people that are doing the same thing. Because so while you may have online that kind of reach of a mentor, the other thing is you may have somebody that's just one step ahead of you, that's just around you. And so that's through Meetup, that's through live events are so underrated. I know even for my live events, by the way, I didn't mention that, Good Merger Miami is coming up. Through that same link, you can reach out and we'll get you information on that. It's May 20th through the 22nd in Miami. It's going to be amazing group of folks. So that's, one of those things. You get to network, deals happen. And, I know even from my own events and the Good Merger events, like, people make deals happen. They're doing things together, and I love it. So you have those people that are just, I don't want to say same level, because they're going to be people at different levels. And then the other part of that is you're looking for somebody that you're one step ahead of, and you're giving back and helping them. And in those events is a great place to do that. So though that would be the 3-step process that I would be doing to achieve that. I love this. Yeah, Darius says, "Did you hear about the 9-figure exit that Ryan Reynolds made selling minimal?" Yeah, amazing deal. He had another massive exit that he just had last year, and I'm not sure if he's the head of really doing anything with those companies, or just the face and does the commercials and that kind of thing. But regardless, it just shows. I mean, 4 years of just like having the right thing, knowing how to scale it, and being able to exit out at 9 figures is absolutely incredible, and playing the money game at the right level. Definitely check out that Money Game book because it gets into a little bit of that. Kenny says BlackRock owns everything. This is very, very true. I could do a whole separate video. Maybe I will, just on the realities of how BlackRock is playing the money game, because it's something really admirable. I think again, a lot of people look at it like, oh, it's the conspiracy, and they're pulling this, and they're buying up everything, and but I think on the other side of this, and again, it's I want y'all to get into that game. You know what I mean? Of what BlackRock does is kind of asset management, essentially. And so they've got a bunch of different funds, and they raise a bunch of capital to invest, and all those things. But yes, they do. Gladzalindo. I went ahead and attempted it. Um, would you consider healthcare category? So we just did a deal in the healthcare space. There's a lot of demand. I think what I would do on those deals is try to get equity before exit and then help prepare it for exit. A little bit of what I was talking about on the Good Merger Strategy 2 videos ago. So just to give you an example, I've mentioned this deal, but I didn't mention it was in the healthcare space. So this is in the healthcare space. We had a deal that we had just there's a lot of demand for. And the reason that it's not as good if you're buying the business, because you're going to be up against this demand, especially if we're representing it, because we're going to run it up. if it's a good merger deal, we're going to run up. So for that business in the healthcare space, we knew there was a lot of demand. We attracted a lot of the right buyers. There's a lot of strategic buyers in the space. And we ended up getting bidders to increase the price by 24% over the asking price. So we had an asking price, and then we got it increased by about 24%. Okay. Rich New Yorker is also a New York engineer. I like it. What's up, man? It says we'll reach out soon because I'm interested in the P program. Makes sense. Awesome. Definitely reach out. The bull. I think the industry of PE can also be very vague, but I completely agree. My family has always been in business, but because I haven't had anyone in finance, the thought never came. Yeah, I think that is the real thing, and that's just where I really want to push people. You know what I mean? I think that we live in a world that's controlled by the language of finance and by the people at the center of finance. And so if you're gonna play the money game, then just get into the middle of the money game, get into finance. I think that is just the most logical thing. It's like, okay, if I'm trying to understand money, another way to think about it, if I'm trying to get wealth myself, which means one day I want to manage my wealth myself, why wouldn't I buy a wealth management company for myself, right? So I don't know. Like I try to keep things as logical, reasonable as possible. Brandon Mack, what is up? It's been, man, this is a flashback. Brandon came to one of our Dealmaker events in Atlanta. I don't even want to say I can't remember. I feel like it was maybe 5-6 years ago. Now we call it the Good Merger Summit. So it was before that. It was when it was the Dealmaker weekend. So Brandon, first of all, what's up? Great to hear from you. Says hello, Ace. In chat, now working your hometown. I missed the beginning of the call, but what are some of the specific examples of financial planning firms to acquire? So the real target for the firms is baby boomers. So right now, and this is why it's just something that's happening right now. This isn't going to be something that's like, oh, the next 20 years you can get to it, or in the next 10 or next 5 years. It's probably about a 4-year window where we've got a ton of these baby boomers. We're kind of at the fever pitch. They've already spent the last 4 or 5 years starting to retire. Now it's kind of at the curve up where we're in the middle of kind of the height of their retirement. And so, it's really the same thing we're just talking about, right? It is the supply. The supply is increasing. So just like your dollars, when they're printing more, a trillion more, it decreases the value. It means you can get really great deals on those baby boomer exits. And for us, it is a heavy focus on the ones that have assets under management. There are some opportunities as you get into like the insurance ones and that kind of play, the brokers and that kind of thing. But the real thing is the which goes back to a little bit before what I was talking about, is the assets under management. So we're at the middle of that right now. We've got about a few years, and then it's going to go down. It'll be still be some of them that are exiting, but it's not at that high supply point. So if this is something you're interested, like again, this isn't something that's just long term. It's like right now is the opportunity. I'd love for as many folks to take advantage of it as possible, because there are the guys like the $32 billion player that I was talking about that's trying to gobble them up like crazy too. But we've got some advantages on how we can get the ones that they aren't. All right, I'm do a couple of these and then my voice is kind of going out. It's been a long day. Appreciate y'all staying on this long. Hit the like button as we wrap up. Yeah, this is perfect. G Combs, keeping it real, man. I appreciate it. Come on, people. Hit that like button. What are you doing? Don't be stingy with your likes. You can't be stingy with a like. Make it rain, likes, not money. All right, I appreciate that, G Combs. M Sway says, I'm glad a lot aren't viewing. You're one of the best things on here, so I'm anti. Become how many junkie souls out there. I understand, man. He's trying to keep the secret. Trying to keep the secrets. You don't want to share the secrets, M Sway. But no, I mean, I think what that is, one of the cool things is like, I don't advertise. And so, this is always going to be a small community. This isn't anything that's like, the masses are running to. I think the thing that it does do by sharing it in your own networks is it allows you to pull the people out that would be even interested in something like this, because that's been the beautiful thing for me. The reason I don't want a lot of the randoms, and it's only going to attract a certain type of person. I mean, as you can tell, like there's not nonsense in, like, when you go to other folks and there's lives, there's a bunch of nonsense in the chat. People that come to my channel are very, just a very different type of thinking person. To be on an hour here now, we're over an hour talking about this level of stuff isn't the average social media nonsense. Brandon Matt says, yep, we're going to get out of here, guys. Thanks for sharing game. Much appreciated for popping in. The Bull says, as always, thank you for all the tips, Ace. And yes, that's a way to sum up the video for today. We focused out here. The Ace Subs is focused. We try to make some things happen, man. We're not just playing games out here, wasting time on social media. All right, thank y'all. Be sure to like, share it with your audience. Don't be like M Sway, trying to keep all the game to itself. Share the game. And I'll be back on soon. If you are interested in learning more about this financial practice opportunity and using some of my money to buy up firms, be sure to hit us, broker at goodmerger.com. Look forward to connecting with you. Talk to y'all soon.